What's going on, you guys? Hope everyone's having a good day here. Just got some coffee. Gonna go up and train here in a little bit. It's Tuesday afternoon. Gonna go up and train a little bit. Got some nogi time. First nogi practice. No, second since Thanksgiving. Just had Thanksgiving last week, dude. Overate, really full. A lot of the times, really having a surplus of food. I love Thanksgiving. I love spending with family. I love hanging out. I do enjoy it. It's fun to have the food, have the cooking. We played football. Um, did a lot of sprints in football. I was an absolute machine. I was pulling down touchdowns. I'm not a very good QB, but I guess I'm pretty decent hands on me. I can snag some passes, and I was pulling down some extreme touchdown catches, like trading card stuff. I actually might have some footage somewhere for it, and maybe I'll try to slap that in here. Um, it was fun though. What was going on? It was completely muddy though. Okay, last year the snow was on the ground. This year that was just muddy where we went, extremely muddy. So I'm running with skateboarding shoes. I just got some brand new skateboarding shoes, and I was running in the skateboarding shoes and sprinting and trying to catch my balance, stabilizer kind of stuff. And my quads, my glutes, and my hamstrings, oh, they've been so sore. Today is the first day that they're actually not as sore. So I'm finally excited to kind of start training jiu-jitsu again and kind of get that going. Man, that's such a good workout. And personally, I want to get back to sprinting anyways. I need to start getting back to sprinting between me trying to bulk up a little bit and also me having Thanksgiving and kind of doing this kind of stuff and overeating just in my daily life. I've put on a little bit of weight. I've put on a little bit of strength. I can crank out the pull-ups now. I'm feeling stronger, but I need to get back into sprinting. And there's no better way to build testosterone other than sprinting. Like, sprinting's the best way. Sprinting's the best way to build testosterone. And maybe I'll pull up a couple sprint workouts that I got later on, maybe, if anyone's interested in that. Maybe down the road it's in a whole nother video. But there's something about it. It's tough to do. If it's hard to do, it usually means that there's something good there. Like, this is just something I've kind of thought about. Like, if something tastes really good or tastes like, really tasty, usually it means there's something bad in there for you. And vice versa. Usually if something's like really like dreadful, like you don't want to do it, you don't want to go for sprints on the track, you don't want to do that kind of stuff, chances are it's got the most benefits for you. So that's just kind of a little bit of irony for life. All right. Also, I just really want to mention this Thanksgiving story. So I'm hanging out with some family members, and we're just kind of talking about something, whatever, I don't know. But jiu-jitsu came up, okay? And I made a statement. I said, I really, truly believe that jiu-jitsu is for everybody. Jiu-jitsu is for everybody, no matter who you are, no matter how old you are, no matter what your physical condition is, even perhaps amputees, okay? I believe that jiu-jitsu is for you. Whatever type of mind, whatever type of thinker you are, I believe that jiu-jitsu is for you, okay? And now, really, what does that mean? I just want to unpack this a little bit. So we're going to do this today. I'm going to unpack this a little bit, but I'm also going to play a little bit of, this was before jiu-jitsu, or this was before Thanksgiving. My buddy Dav and I were rolling here, okay? So here's Dav and I. Dav's 15. I just got this new camera, by the way. Not the one you're looking at here, but the one in the video. This one. I just got the new camera, and here I am just kind of doing some escapes. Okay? Actually, you know what? I'll react to this. Listen. I'm just going to tell you. Jiu-jitsu is for everybody. Okay? This is something I truly believe. Jiu-jitsu is for everybody. All right? I'm not going to be able to multitask and talk about this. So listen, jiu-jitsu is for everybody. I just really believe that whatever stage in life you're in, and there's some caveats to this, whatever stage of life you're in, I believe that you going to practice, doing jiu-jitsu, and kind of getting your butt kicked, what that means, and we'll kind of discuss all this stuff, but the principle of getting your butt kicked, the principle of that, and also, this principle of persistence, I think it's just immensely beneficial to everyone. Now, I'm going to share a personal story. You say, or I'm saying, jiu-jitsu for everybody. There was a time where jiu-jitsu was not for me. And how can this be? Well, I think for this statement to be true and for jiu-jitsu to be for everyone, you need to meet the individual where they're at and meet them in their introduction in jiu-jitsu where they are at. Okay? So every person does have their own individual purpose and significance and place in this world. Okay? That's true. I don't disagree with that at all. And that being said, if I give person A, if I treat them like person C, okay, person type C, and I introduced jiu-jitsu to them in a way that would gravitate towards person C, probably person A will not be of interest to jiu-jitsu anymore. Okay, and I might actually ruin their experience with jiu-jitsu. I might actually take something that I solely believe is very beneficial in them or for them, and I might turn them completely around to it, not even want to do it again. And I think that happens a lot. I think that happens a lot to people because they just go to a gym or they get a taste of something that doesn't necessarily jive with them yet. Now, I think after a while, person A and person C's paths in terms of jiu-jitsu will merge, okay? I think some things that, like, I'll stop being so vague here in a second. So back in the day, when I was in college, okay, maybe I was a freshman in college, actually, so I was probably 19 years old, okay? I had played youth sports, team sports growing up, except for snowboarding. I snowboarded, but not a ton of competition experience. I competed a good amount of time snowboarding, but not like anything super clutch, anything super, like where I'm like really on the stage. Not a lot of 1v1 snowboarding competition. It's you versus, kind of yourself, and then you compare all of everyone, but never like me versus another person solely one-on-one, even in like not even like a combative stance, like a combative sport. So I've never had any experience with combat sports whatsoever. And I was introduced in jiu-jitsu. Okay, so my college had this little club, not a club jiu-jitsu. It was like it was called a little, I guess it was like a little jiu-jitsu club, but it's not like what you think. It's like a tiny like room that they rolled mats out on before yoga class, or I'm just kind of giving an example, before like, cardio kickboxing or something kind of silly. It was just kind of a student's hobby kind of club, basically. And I went to that as a freshman, and I thought it was going to be like Power Rangers. Like, I literally, me and my buddies would watch like Power Rangers, or this movie. The movie is called Bone, Blood and Bone, maybe. It's like, I think it's like a prison movie or something. And we'd watch that, and then we'd show up to jiu-jitsu class in like boots and like baggy sweatshirts and stuff, and be like, oh, we're gonna learn jiu-jitsu, we're gonna be so cool. And dude, we wrestled on our knees a little bit, and I remember going as this wrestler at that time, physically, aggressive dude. And I'm an only child, so I didn't even grow up rolling around or like wrestling my brothers or anything. I don't have any brothers. I wrestled a little bit with my friends, but I would always get choked. I'd always get like, they'd jump on my neck and they were rough, and I was like, oh, this is not fun. I don't like being choked. I don't like being beaten up. Like, this is not fun. So anyways, I went to this jiu-jitsu club class here in college in Plattsburgh, and I remember this wrestler guy came towards me, and I just kind of had this knack for grabbing on someone's neck in a guillotine, and I didn't know what I was doing. I had no idea of technique or anything. I just know that their head's there. Guillotines are very easy to grab when you're a beginner. Like, it's like the only guiding light you really have. in the sport is just grab on their neck and grab it. And you still see it to this day with everyone, even children. So I grabbed on his neck and I ended up being on my back and I pulled guard or got knocked over, probably got taken down actually. And I remember I'm like, oh no. And I'm trying to submit him because that's my only hope. And then his head pops out. And I didn't get ragdolled or thrashed, but, the round went and there was no coming back for me. And I had one buddy who was really into it. His name was Hawken, and he was kind of crazy. He was actually going to become a Marine, and he was crazy. He had a couple other brothers, older ones, I think, and they were all Marines or something as well. So it was kind of like his fortune that he was going to try to do this. His destiny was his calling. But he was a lot skinnier than me, lankier, kind of longer, gangly guy, and not necessarily jacked, but just kind of a little crazy in the head. And I'm not being mean. He would tell you the same thing. And he said, and he would be like, oh, let's go to jiu-jitsu again. That was awesome. And I'm like, yeah, that was cool. So I went to a couple of classes, but I was faking it. I really didn't like it. At that time. I didn't even understand it. I didn't even know any submissions. I didn't know any of this stuff. I ended up, after a few classes, maybe like a handful of classes, I just kind of faded away. I just didn't go. I didn't have the bug. There was something about that experience that didn't give me the bug for jiu-jitsu. And I don't necessarily fully know exactly what it was that didn't really do it for me. I probably just didn't like being held down. I probably felt like I didn't really know what was fully going on. I didn't really understand the objectives, I guess, of jiu-jitsu. It was kind of more of like, get in there and get it on. Here are your shrimps. Do your shrimps. And I don't even remember doing much of shrimping, like for warm-ups or anything. It was just kind of very, very informal. And it did kind of leave a bad taste in my mouth. Not out of like wanting to quit or anything, but I just didn't understand the superpower nature of it, or like the cerebral element of it. It was just kind of, and I was young, and I honestly, part of me thinks that at that stage of my life, I just wasn't ready to be kind of wrestled like that. I didn't want to lose necessarily. I didn't want to look like I was like weak or something. I'm sure all of this stuff played into it. I was a young man. I was 19, never having any experience with this stuff. And once again, only made it to a couple classes. But that being said, fast forward a few more years, right? Let's just say maybe 5 more years, right? I take a jiu-jitsu class here out of curiosity, okay? The universe kept putting like jiu-jitsu Easter eggs like in my sphere of my life. And I kept hearing jiu-jitsu. And I've always loved the UFC. I always loved, watching fights. It's one of the only sports I think that you really just can't look away from. And there's so much going on. But I didn't ever watch it from like a brutish angle, or like I wasn't like one of those fans where I was drinking the beer saying, get up. Like, no, I was much more of like watching it and trying to understand what truly was actually happening. I'd never been in a fight in my life, even to this day. So it's just like to me, the essence of jiu-jitsu and the wondering of jiu-jitsu, what's going on. And it was always really attractive to me. Even though when I tried it, I didn't necessarily like it. Okay. So anyways, the universe kept putting jiu-jitsu back in my life, and I ended up going to a class. And that's where I first met Trevor and Dan and all these people down here in St. Albans, where I live. And from that day forward, it was a Friday. It was October 2nd, 2020. And I believe that was a Friday. You can check. I'm pretty sure it was. Because I remember going to this class, and it was at 2 p.m. I went down. Trevor gave me a gi to use. It was a big purple gi. I think Tyler wears it now. It's the big purple Vulcan gi. And I had long hair. And it was like all kind of like scraggly. And I was chunky. And I remember training that day. We learned butterfly sweeps, sumageshis, boom. And it's a great sweep. But I remember the class exactly, perfectly. And once again, I was going in there with no expectations. Joe Rogan was in my ear probably months and weeks before, saying, like, talking about the different belts and what it means and how long it takes and how hard it is and how good it is for you. So maybe perhaps I was being a little brainwashed. That's what I mean when I say the universe was kind of dumping things in my head, kind of funneling me towards taking this step. And then you hear like, your first class is the hardest class because, you have to go and get it and being a white belt and all this stuff. So anyways, I do the class on that Friday. And I remember literally leaving there and saying, oh yeah, I'm in. I'm buying a gi. I'm buying a gi. So I got on Vulcan website because it was my loaner gi that I had. I knew it was a Vulcan. I was going to wash it. And I got on Vulcan website and ordered myself a gi. I committed. I bought a gi, which I think is important. I didn't just buy and I'm not dissing this. I'm not saying this in a budget aspect, but at the time, spending $100+, it was probably like $150 on the gi that I first bought. That was quite the accountability commitment for me in my life at that time. Like, I didn't have a ton of money necessarily. So I told myself, I said, I'm buying this gi and I'm going to train jiu-jitsu because my money's in it now. I kind of have a little bit of stake in the game, if you will. So I did that, and literally the gi hadn't even arrived yet, but I'm back to open mat on Sunday, 2 days later. And from that Friday in 2020, I've pretty much trained at least every 2 days. I was on a schedule of training. I had a Tuesday practice, a Friday practice, and then a Sunday practice. And that was my schedule for pretty much like the first year or first few months at least. And then, I got the gym rolling here and the new locations in the basement and then eventually upstairs. And then it's pretty much daily now, obviously. But anyways, that was just my experience. So how does someone who had that experience with first trying jiu-jitsu, how can they say that it's for everybody when it clearly wasn't for me? And I think it was for me. I think it always was for me. As I reflect on it, it always was for me. It just wasn't for me in that way at that time of my life. Now, if you had brought me the same person I am now, who I am mentally, how I am with my self-acceptance, right? If you had put me in that same scenario that I was back in college, I love it. Oh my gosh, open mat anytime. Like, what? We can do open mat school with people who don't know what they're doing and just chuck them around. Like, dude, that's fun. Like, why? That's awesome. Okay. But at the time, I just wasn't ready for that element of it yet. Okay. So there's a lot of things that kind of play into it, but I truly do believe that every person can gain immense benefit from jiu-jitsu. I think their self-image and their worth, their self-image is going to benefit probably fast. Okay. And it's not going to be like straight up. You might go straight down based on where you're at. You might originally be like think you're the top dog, like think you are. And those people need jiu-jitsu too, because it's going to go poop and you're going to be like, damn, dude, what? How did that teenager, Dav, how does Dav just like submit me or something? Or Tyler, how does he submit me? Like, you feel kind of low. Well, you have a lot to learn, dude. You have a lot to learn. Like, this is okay. Where else in your life are you also doing this? Now, another thing that's important in this conversation is just because jiu-jitsu is for everyone doesn't mean jiu-jitsu is your purpose. Jiu-jitsu is not your reason for living and it's your job. It's not all this thing. For me, I really believe it is. I believe jiu-jitsu is a vessel or a mechanism for me to express my purpose and influence people and help people. Okay? That's really what I believe actually. Okay? But jiu-jitsu could just be an outlet for you to be a better father or mother or better student or better worker, coworker, friend, brother, family member, whatever. Okay? Jiu-jitsu could just be like maybe a means to help you with your discipline. Perhaps you kind of have a tendency to not want to stick with a job for more than 1 year or 2 years. And you just always find yourself in this innate habit of bouncing job to job, job to job, job to job. I will tell you that jiu-jitsu will build that stability in your schedule and your routine. It'll give you the opportunity to cultivate it, I'll say. Jiu-jitsu alone is not going to do anything without your honest effort, right? Which is kind of life. It's just literally effort, trying hard, trying to have effort. But But like jujitsu is unique because because this is the counter argument to all this was like, well, yeah, all of these all of these perks or benefits that you're describing or discussing, surely they exist other places other than jiu-jitsu. And I would say yes, they do. Yes, they do. I'm sure they are everywhere. I'm sure there are many channels where you can, you know, gain these benefits in other parts of the human experience. However, I have not found one actual thing, one actual sport, hobby, event, or like pastime that encompasses all of these in it. Okay. So by doing jujitsu, the benefits you can gain from your character, from your physical, from your mindset, from the way you approach problems, your self-awareness, your actual like neurological adaptations of your body, okay? Your self-image, all this stuff. Find me one other hobby that does all of that. And that's going to be tough in my opinion. I think that's going to be tough, okay? Even social dynamics, even just respect, even just the way to understand, right? Jiu-jitsu, such a learning intensive thing. You will understand how you even learn. Now apply some of that information to other elements of your life. Even school, perhaps you're studying in school, or you're going back to get your master's, or you're going back, you never went to college and you went to the workforce, but now you find, I want to pursue a degree. And like, well, if you train jiu-jitsu, you understand how you learn best. You kind of, I don't know, I think there's endless ways to skin this cat of why jiu-jitsu can be beneficial for absolutely everybody. But the key is you have to be introduced to it in the right way. You have to have it in the right way, in the right dose. It cannot just be a one size fits all for everyone. And that takes a lot of care and awareness on the coach's behalf. And especially with children, like I was just kind of having this conversation the other night, is like for kids class here, I'm going to be straight up honest with you. My goal in jiu-jitsu kids classes is it to get them better at jiu-jitsu? I would say, yeah, kind of. Okay. Yeah, kind of. Okay. Do I want them to get better at jiu-jitsu? Of course I want them to get better at jiu-jitsu. And we're going to do jiu-jitsu things. We really will. But my main priority is to get them to feel more confident, to get them to see themselves as not talented, not good, but hard workers, always doing as much as they can. And on the days that they don't really want to try super hard, still finding that energy to burn and that effort to expense. That's what I'm really trying to get them into. I'm trying to cultivate these patterns of if I'm having a hard time, I'm going to keep working. I'm not going to give up. I'm going to keep scratching. I just heard a quote this morning about scratching. It was something. It was something starts with a scratch, but then whatever. You got to keep scratching. Anyways, whatever. But like getting these kids to like, if they're in a moment where it's like they're having a tough time or they're up against some adversity, don't just give up and call it quits. Like keep trying stuff, keep working, keep throwing things at the wall, keep working, okay? And when I never am praising them, I try to at least. I'm sure I am guilty of this, but my intention is never to praise them for how good you've done. Wow, you did so good. You submitted them. That's perfect. You're so great at jiu-jitsu. You're so great at jiu-jitsu. I don't want to praise them for the outcome of their jiu-jitsu. I really want to praise them for their effort. Like, wow, you've been working so hard on that arm bar. Great job. I'm glad it's working. Keep trying harder, and then you'll be able to armbar everyone. You'll be able to armbar, it's like keep working on it. Wow, you did that armbar not because you're good at arm bars. You did it because you tried for months working on this armbar. Wow, when you took the back, now you're getting your hooks right in. You know how to control them. That's really good. Good job practicing that. That's why we practice, and that's why we keep trying hard. So basically, my whole entire goal for that is to get them to say, wow, I did that armbar not because I'm naturally gifted or because I'm blessed, but because of the effort that I tried doing that. You understand what I'm saying? Kind of. So that's my point there. So those are the things that I'm really trying to do with jiu-jitsu in the kids classes is I'm trying to I don't care about jiu-jitsu. Like I don't care if they get good at jiu-jitsu. Like if you can do forward rolls, like I'm not going to lose sleep if the 3-year-old or 4-year-old can't do forward rolls. Okay? I don't necessarily care about that. I care if he's enjoying himself. I care if he's learning how to follow the leader and stay in line. Okay, as we run around, kind of shaping him towards like kind of learning to fit in and kind of, and I'm not trying to kill creativity or like make them like cookie cutters of each other. That's the last thing I want. But just kind of introducing him to structure, that's kind of cool. That really piques my attention. I love watching him and older kids work together because I love watching the older kids really be gentle and teach the little kids. We talk about this all the time, like some of the best ways to learn something yourself is to teach someone else doing it. Well, who is an 8-year-old going to teach? Why don't they teach the 4-year-old a little bit? Teach them just a little bit. And they all know. And it works both ways. And the 4-year-old's going to learn that way better from the 8-year-old than from me. Okay, so these are the things that I'm really paying attention to. And if they become better at jiu-jitsu, that's awesome. And I know for a fact that, and I believe this part with all my heart too, if they love jiu-jitsu, because they've been introduced in the right vein, in the right way, then 8 years from now, when the 4-year-old is, 12? Or when the 8 years from now, when the 8-year-old's 16, right? Now they're in their adult, kind of classes, and now they're actually learning jiu-jitsu. Now we start really getting good at jiu-jitsu. But the foundations of classes and learning and fun and love and joy of jiu-jitsu is already so ingrained into them, and they don't associate any negativity with jiu-jitsu. They might associate challenges. They might associate adversity and having to overcome hurdles, but that's not negative. We've reshaped that through the structure of the class, and that's my general arch. Is now when these individuals encounter challenges or obstacles or adversity in their school life, their relationships as they get older, their or professional life, anything, right? These adversities and these challenges are not obstacles. They're not barriers. They're just another something to work through. Okay, so that's just a kind of side rant of how that's an example of how I would approach kids in the right way, not to necessarily turn them away, but trying to meet them all as individuals on the whole. And I do believe that's the responsibility of the instructor. Now it's tough because we don't have a huge gym here, but I can tell you I have a stack of waivers probably this big of signed waivers from adults who come in, who get it on just for a little bit and they don't show back up again. And even people who have trained for years who just, life gets in the way and they're not in the gym as much anymore. And it's tough for an instructor or a coach to be in tune with absolutely everyone and give them the honest, fairest introduction to jiu-jitsu as that individual deserves, for them to be a lifelong, gain lifelong benefits. But it is tough. So there is a tiny bit of accountability. The person's going to have to want it a touch. But that's, I'm only saying that because it's asking a lot for an instructor to meet every single one where they're at. I kind of can do this because I'm kind of in a smaller setting. If I was in a huge like urban environment or metropolitan area, then that would be trickier for me to do. So anyways, I just want to kind of bring this thing back where I started, and we're not going to do a reaction video at this point. I'll react maybe in the next video. I'll react to something. I have some cool rolls, and I'll go grab some more on this new camera. I love this new camera that I got. It's a DJI Osmo Pocket 3, and it tracks you around. It's really kind of cool. It's got a gimbal on it. It's a pretty good image. It shoots in 4K. It also shoots in 1080. It also shoots in 8K for slow motion, I'm quite sure. I haven't messed with it much, but I'll go get some more videos. Maybe we can do a reaction. So the Thanksgiving story of me after my football game is we got into a little chat with one of my relatives, and I just really was coming from the stance that jiu-jitsu is for everybody. Even babies, dude. Even babies. Put a baby on the ground and just play with them, and their eyes light up, bro. They're learning. They're sensories. They're just trying to like move around and grab and push and frame and do stuff. Obviously, I'm not saying smash past a baby, but like every age has their own like peak of jujitsu. Like a baby's jujitsu might just be like lifting their head off the mat and kind of like scooting their butt away. And you're just playing with them because it's fun. And think about the bonding you're doing and all the chemicals that are being released in your brain, all the oxytocin for the baby, but also the person playing with the baby. It's a two-way street, dude. That's what jujitsu is. It's mutually beneficial. Okay. And then an example of like, to contrast this, like a 60-year-old or a 70-year-old who just started jiu-jitsu, like, okay, listen, spend some time on the floor, get in beach pose a little bit, let's snail around a little bit, and let's learn how to stand up. Technical stand-ups. Let's learn technical stand-ups, okay? Let's build our bone density back. Let's do some very, very mild break falls. Boom, boom, boom. And that's all our jiu-jitsu is going to be for that age. Like, it's no big deal, but that's still jiu-jitsu. And that's going to build them physically. That's going to keep their like circulation going. That's their exercise. They're going to get some cardio. They're going to sweat. It's going to be very, very low impact. So it's not going to absolutely damage them. Okay. And they're going to learn some absolutely life-saving skills. What happens when this life-saving skills, I'm not being dramatic. Like what happens if this 80-year-old falls down and doesn't okay, look at this. For example, my grandma fell down. She tripped over something with her slippers on. Boom. Hit the ground, broke her hip. Boom. Broke her hip, dude. She didn't do a ton of activity. Her bones, I would assume, if you had tested them, they would appear weak. So, jiu-jitsu is known to improve bone density. So, let's say my grandmother had been training jiu-jitsu for maybe like a year, 2 years, even at like 80, right? A few years. I don't know the exact amount of time, but had she been more proactive and been training jiu-jitsu, and I'm not saying training hard sparring rounds, throwing up chokes, flying arm bars. I'm saying moving around on the mats, shrimping, snailing. I call that snailing. Beach pose where you're kind of like sliding away on your butt scooting. Okay? Doing tornado legs where you're pummeling your legs, sitting up, doing some core. Just whatever she could do physically. Standing up, technical stand-ups. Maybe standing up while I'm pushing on their hand. Like they put the stop sign up, they're doing their technical stand-up. I'm just pushing on their hand, getting a little more resistance, gentle resistance. Suppose my grandmother did this, then she had her fall, right? I'm curious to see the thought of, would her bone have broken? Would her hip have broken? Possibly. It could have, possibly. But what if it didn't? Because the bone density was higher. Okay, and instead of laying on the floor for 2 hours suffering, thinking I'm gonna die here, waiting for someone to come find her because she doesn't have a life alert or something, what if, she's able to stand up, technical stand up under that adversity, and she didn't panic. She remained calm. She stayed focused. She breathed, she stood up. And even if she was a little injured, and she made her way to a phone and was able to call for help. Like, those are the things I'm wondering. So that was a contrast of the baby situation. But anyways, this video is getting incredibly long now. I just believe it's for everyone, okay? And I think they can gain immense benefit, physical benefit, self-image benefit. I think they can gain benefit mentally. We hadn't even talked about the strategy, which is what I think was truly the appeal to me. And that's a whole nother realm in itself. I can recognize that in other people too. And you know what's ironic is a lot of the time the physical players, the real like physical kind of like athletic players, right? They end up kind of fascinated with the mental cerebral side of it. And maybe it's perhaps because, it's something that's not necessarily innate. It's something that they have to work towards, which seems to be the absolute recipe for everyone. Like, I just was reading George St. Pierre's book last night, and in the first chapter or something, he's talking about, if you look back at all the greats, they all were not good at it. They had to actively pursue what they were good at. So maybe when you have these physical people, these naturally physically gifted people, once you start introducing elements of the cerebral kind of strategy game to them, the reason why it's so appealing to them is because it's foreign. It becomes fascinating. It's something they want to learn about. It's something they want to figure out. So I'll go down a rabbit hole on that. So anyways, I just truly do believe it thinks it's something for every single person of every single age. The one caveat being if they are introduced to it properly. And eventually, every single individual is met with their respective approach, but eventually all paths do lead to the top. Isn't that the way of the do, right? Like, I'm not huge into this, but this is something like judo, Jiu Jitsu do, like all these do, like a dojo. Like, I think the word do in like Chinese or wherever, whatever this is, Japanese or something, it's all about the way, like the way. And there's several ways to the top of a mountain. There's several paths, but all paths really do converge where? At the top. They all do find similarity at the top. There's different ways to get there, but whatever. That's my little rant for today. Happy post-Thanksgiving. Go out there and train a little bit. Let's go. Get after it. Make sure you break a sweat today. Get it on. All right, see you soon.